Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video I'm going to be detailing the top 5 characters I would like to see added to the Dissidia arcade game. Now those of you may remember Final Fantasy Dissidia. It was a fighting game that came out quite some time ago, starring the heroes and villains of all the Final Fantasy series. Now an arcade version of the game, a new one, was released on November 26, 2015 exclusively in arcades in Japan. Now with that came a 1-year exclusivity contract that the game would not be released outside of Japanese arcades until at least November 26, 2016. We are now, well, way past that date, so we can start considering that since the game was developed with PlayStation 4 technology in mind, that we'll be getting a port sometime in 2017 of the popular arcade fighting game. Now with that in mind, they've been adding a lot of characters to the cast, and they're still in the process of adding some of the characters you may remember from Dissidia and Duodecim. They've, since the release of the game, added Ramza from Tactics, Y'shtola from Final Fantasy XIV, and Ace from Type 0, as well as bringing in some of the favorite villains that didn't make it to the initial release. Now with that in mind, I'd like to say the 5 characters I'd like to see added, as when Dissidia was originally unveiled, they said they had plans for up to or around 50 total characters by the time the game's life cycle was complete. So let's get into my list. Number 5 for me is gonna be Noctis. This is just an easy one, so I put it at the bottom of the list. Final Fantasy XV has released at this point, and for them to not add Noctis to the Dissidia arcade game would be pretty surprising. I think most of us can agree. Obviously, he would serve on the Cosmos side of things, utilizing his Armiger and his Royal Arms, as well as his ability to use so many different types of weapons in his fight in Dissidia. Now, in terms of the Chaos side, I wanted to consider this as numbers 4 through 1, but Arden, his opposite, his moveset's a little too similar, so picking the Chaos side equivalent for Final Fantasy XV would be pretty difficult. You could maybe pick Ravis, Arden, and there's a few other ones that you could pick, so I'm really just going to go with Noctis from Final Fantasy XV for the time being. For number 4, I'm gonna have to go with Gaius Van Belsar, the Black Wolf and leader of the 14th Legion in Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. Now while Gaius hasn't been a part of the story in quite some time, he was very important to the story back in 1.0 and was the main antagonist of 2.0 as well. I would love to see him as a villain over some of the other options we're given, such as the Ascians or other members of the Imperial Army, or even some of the bosses inside of the Binding Coil of Bahamut and things like that. I'd like to see Gaius Van Belsar be opposite to Y'shtola, representing the Chaos side of Final Fantasy XIV. Now number 3 is really just me trying to fill in Chaos side enemies along with number 4. So I'm going to go with Final Fantasy XI's Eald'narche and Camlanot. Now some of you may remember them as being the 2 primary villains of the Rise of Xylar expansion pack, Camlanot being the Archduke of Juno and Eald'narche being his older brother, though he appears to be his younger brother. Now, I actually would like to see both of them make it into the game almost as like a tag team type character. You know how we have Cecil, who is able to change between Paladin and Dark Knight. I'd like to see something similar with Eald'narche and Camlanot, where you can either be the melee focused sword wielding Camlanot, or you can be the magic using teleporting little annoying brat in that of Eald'narche. Number 2 is not going to be taken to the Chaos side. We're going to be going back to the Cosmos side, in which I would like to see Galuf, Baldesion, from Final Fantasy V. Galuf is one of those heroes that I just feel like never gets appreciated, despite his major importance in Final Fantasy V's story. I know it's a little bit hard to nail down exactly what kind of fighter he'd be, since Final Fantasy V is entirely a game about the job system, and we already have the Onion Knight representing the multitude of job systems, as well as Bartz actually, them both. They are both kind of fulfilling that role. So I don't know what I'd like him to be, but I'd like to see Galuf make his appearance, especially since Exdeath, his opposite, is a major villain and has been for a long time. And finally, we have my number 1 pick. We're going to be going back to the Chaos side for this one. That would be Caius Ballad from Final Fantasy XIII-2 and Lightning Returns. Now, Lightning has stood alone as the Cosmos protector of Final Fantasy XIII in Dissidia since her introduction back in Duodecim. With that being said, Caius Ballad is the only villain I feel like from the entire 13 series that is worth putting into the game here. I could definitely think of some other ones that could somewhat fit, as they would definitely belong to the Chaos side, but I think that Caius Ballad is a character that, of all the things that the 13 series did, is a very high point for the series, and that he deserves representation here in the Dissidia arcade game. Whether or not it hits the PlayStation 4, I'd love to see him make an appearance. And that's my top 5 list for characters I'd like to see make their way into the Dissidia arcade game, especially when it hits the PlayStation 4, whenever that may be, hopefully in 2017. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and put your top 5 list in the comment section of the video below. Anyway, thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.